I'm Jake Shimabukuro, and you're watching Eclectic Arts Media with my good friend Mark.
Susanna, do you want to do a documentary? And she's like, yes. I'm like, great, here you go.
So it was really a lot of just jumping off the cliff and being like, yes, let's hope this will work. And it did.
That's great to see your face, man. That is all. Thank you. That's a great gift, Mark.
I could be working now. I could be doing something. So it's good to take some time away, but I can't get away for too long, quite honestly.
And I can't find the light. I've only worked here for like 5 years and I can't find the light switches.
It's like Darby, Montana, population 600. Man, we got to come up with a plan.
Yeah, I think when it feels like the journey is complete, you know?
Really good question. By the way, you are such a good interviewer. All of your questions are solid questions.
Other than that, it's all good. We're just going to keep trying to make
And the winner is
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts Media, based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me on this Thursday, the 9th of March, 2023. And I want to thank Charlie Ford for joining me last week. It was great catching up with Charlie. She was the first adult entertainment guest I ever did a live stream with, which was like back in 2021. So it was nice catching up with her. She's now here stateside, having immigrated from Australia, so she's getting settled in and eventually be shooting for all the companies that she wants to shoot for and everything else. So that was always it's always fun when guests come back and I get a chance to kind of see what they're up to and also help promote what they have going on. And speaking of which, coming up tomorrow, Friday, at 7 p.m. Pacific time, this is something that's been in the works. I mean, technically, since the interview I did with one of the guests, which was last year, and I had a filmmaker symposium back in 2021. And I always wanted to do another one. And my intention was to have female filmmakers who are actors, writers, producers, activists, everything that you can think of. And so I came across one gal I loved her energy, loved everything about her. So I was just waiting to kind of find a second one and a third guest. And I found them. And so then it was like, well, do they want to do this? And that was part of the issue. And they did, luckily. But then trying to get schedules together was just insane. But it's supposed to happen tomorrow at 7 p.m. So I'm very excited to have that. And again, it'll be 3 female filmmakers that will be joining me. We'll be talking about everything they've done with film, all facets of it. And it'll be Casey Hartnett, who right now has been most known for Terrifier 2, which was a sleeper hit back in October, November. And Kate Black Spence did a tremendous short film that she wrote, co-directed, and starred in called Static Space. And the third guest is Zuzana Lova, who directed for her very first time a documentary about her good dancing friend and the issues that she overcame. So those three ladies are scheduled to join me tomorrow. And so if you'd like to join the chat or in the conversation, anytime I have a live stream, you can just subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on Twitch, and then you'll have instant access to the chat and you can put things in. Please be aware that if you're going to join the chat, that only I see the comments and questions, so my guests don't. So I will either just incorporate them into the conversation, or sometimes I'll literally put it onto the screen so both of us can see it. Yeah, I'm really glad to be back. I've got a lot of in-person things going on. Speaking of film, I've got 2 film festivals that one of them starts on Saturday. The other one's already going now. I'll be at a concert photographing that on Tuesday, and I was just at a theater performance last night, and I was at a musical on Tuesday. So things are very, very busy on the Eclectic Arts Media end of things, and I hope that you're doing well out there tonight, or if you're watching this down the road, whatever time it happens to be for you. But let's get to things. I'm really excited to talk to this guest, and without further ado, my guest today is a fan favorite in the world of adult entertainment. She is nominated for 4 Trans Erotic Awards, with a ceremony taking place on March 19th, so not too far away. She also has a dedicated following on both loyal fans and OnlyFans. It is my great pleasure to welcome to the Eclectic Arts Media Virtual Studio the 2023 AVN and 2023 XBiz Trans Performer of the Year, Miss Emma Rose.
Hi there.
Hi, Emma. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
That's great. And Who do we have next to you?
Sorry, my kitty. This is Buddy.
Buddy. Hi, Buddy. How old is Buddy?
He is a few years old. He's actually my ex's cat, but I took over him. But I literally was just running from the door back to the camera before it came on. He's a really needy boy.
No problem. I've had dogs, cats, babies that crawled into the camera. I think the most unique one was I had one guest his office was out in a barn in the Midwest, and you could hear a donkey making sounds.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and that's when he said, "Oh, that's Cash, my donkey that I rescued." Like,
I grew up on a farm, so I miss all those farm animals.
Okay, yeah, and that's part of the beauty of being live is that all the way it is, nothing will be edited out later, so you see it as it happened. And I guess first, before we dive into everything, happy belated birthday to you. I know that was
thank you so much.
Yeah, and I know that you've been traveling abroad.
Yeah, I went to Australia and then I for like 6 days, and then I went to Bali. And then the reason why I missed the last interview is because I got like the worst food poisoning ever. And I'm still healing from it. So it's been a while.
Wow, were you sick when you got back, or was it when you were kind of over there?
It was like kind of like on the flight back. So at least it wasn't that bad. But then when I had like a fever, I was dying. It was on a pretty fight. I had to call out of so much work.
Well, I'm glad that you're starting to feel better. Hopefully you get to be 100% soon. Mm-hmm. There's anyone who's out there who's watching this right now knows that food poisoning's no fun.
That's not good at all. Oh my God. Oh.
No, and like you said, you feel like you're dying.
Yeah.
So, not good at all. But I'm just kind of curious before we get into your adult work and everything else. Mm-hmm. What was Bali like? Because I think most Americans have no clue, like even where it is, let alone what the place is like.
Yeah, Bali's in Indonesia. So it's I was in Gold Coast before that, and from Melbourne, which is like an hour south of that, it's still a 7-hour flight. So it's still a while to fly there. And it's very beautiful, except AC isn't really easy to come by because I had an Airbnb there. I didn't stay at a resort. So a lot of the Airbnbs are huge and beautiful, but you have to be very careful with leaving doors open or like bugs getting in, or and it was rainy season. Like their winter technically is wet season, and then their summer is dry season, even though the weather is the same all year round. But it was beautiful. A lot of people I feel like don't realize that it's a third world country, and like they think it's like all like glamour and beautiful and stuff. But I'm like, it's like you rough it out there a couple of times, but it's beautiful. It's amazing. I love it.
Okay, well, no, that's great. Again, I think most people don't even realize that it's in Indonesia. Like you said, a third world country. So it's like, yeah, the views and everything can be spectacular, but there's also these other issues.
Yeah, and don't drink the water. Oh my God. So I went to this holy temple and did like this purification. It's like, you've probably seen like the pond and there's fountains with water coming out. And I think that's where I got sick at, because I put the water in my mouth like you're supposed to, but I think that I swallowed a couple times, and they like, don't drink the water there. So I think that was like the beginning of my downfall.
Well, there's good advice, folks. Don't drink the water when you're in Bali.
No water, no.
Okay, and I have a curious mind, so please forgive me. I'm just kind of wondering, why did you pick Bali? What prompted you to go there?
I don't know why. I just wanted to go to Bali so bad. It was either Bali or Thailand, and everyone was telling me to go Thailand. It's not wet season there, and I'm like, well, now that everyone's telling me to go, I'm not gonna go. So, and then Bali, it's really cheap. It's beautiful. I've always been on my bucket list, and I'll definitely want to go back for sure.
Okay, well, sounds like it definitely worked for you if you want to go back.
Yeah.
So
I know. Hopefully next time I won't get food poisoning.
All right. Well, so as we showed in the video clip of your AVN award from January of 2023, now it's been 2 months or so since that happened, and your XBiz award as well. Has all that sunken in that you've had some time away from the awards?
Yeah, it's been crazy. January was such a big month, not only for like my porn career, my adult career, but also for like other film. I have a couple of film projects in the works, and then I had an audition. I've never auditioned for anything in my life, but now that everything's settled, I'm finally hoping to go 3 for 3 from AVN, XBiz, and the T Awards, because the T Awards are in 2 weeks.
Wow. Well, if you got 2 of them, so there's probably a good chance you'll get 3.
Yeah. I'm really, really hoping so. Because I won Hardcore Performer of the Year last year for Tees.
Okay, yes. That's because I was looking through like all the categories for both award shows, and
Yeah.
It's a big deal when you're Performer of the Year with all the other folks that are nominated and those that should have been nominated and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when you went up to give your speech, were you kind of like trying to power your way through the speech?
I
Or how did
was
that work?
shaking. Oh my God, I was shaking so much. I was sitting in my chair. I was reciting my speech because I came up with a speech. I'm like, if I win, this is what I'm going to say. And I kept on repeating it over and over and over and over again. Because I'm like, I cannot stutter on stage because if I stutter, I'm going to get like so shy and I'm not going to finish what I want to say. So, and I didn't want to like bring anything up because there's no podium to like go to. So I was really happy. I think that my speech, everyone really said like I loved it. It meant a lot. Everyone was cheering like throughout the whole entire speech. It made me feel so good about myself because it was the first time being on a stage that big and accepting an award like that. It was surreal.
I can only imagine. I mean, even just when you hear your name and then walking up, plus you have that beautiful dress on, so you don't trip going up the stairs. You got
Yeah. I was like, don't stutter, don't trip.
And that's a really good point that, there's no podium to kind of like sort of pseudo hide behind and put like a note card or something else.
Yeah, you're just out there and I'm just like, hi, everybody.
You did a really fantastic job, and especially with that. I think why people liked your speech particularly because you spoke to what had been said to you about trans performers and maybe not being a part of the industry or not going to be able to get anywhere. Those kind of naysayers, basically.
Yeah, I was crazy because it was not even 24 hours afterwards. The next day, a really popular agency reached out to me like, hey, we would love to like talk to you about representation. And I'm like, it was kind of like honestly like a blow to the face because I asked them a year ago, be like, oh, hey, I would really love to work with y'all. It was right before Last Avians, and they were saying like, oh, it's just not something that we're looking into right now. It's like not a market. And then for them to do exactly after who I was calling out, and I was like, this is crazy. But I want to work on something for trans girls, by trans girls, for trans girls in the future. But there's a lot of connections to be made, and I still have a long way as a model in the industry to make it as well.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I had a film festival that approved me. This was maybe, 3-4 years ago. Like, okay, great. I'm looking forward to it. And then like the day before the festival, they reneged on my credentials.
Yeah.
And they gave me kind of like a BS kind of reason. So I'm like, you're always going to be over here in this corner. And then not that I'm anything special, but now I've done Tribeca and I've done Milwaukee and I've done the local Seattle festival. And then they came back. And it's
exactly.
Like, oh, I remember you. I was like, you know what? I'm too busy.
It kind of takes like the enjoyment out of it because I'm like, y'all could have taken me a year ago and really just like killed it, but now I'm like, I feel like I've just outgrown it. So
exactly, that's the same feeling that I had. So you know what, I've moved on. Thank you. Do what you do, and I'm gonna do what I do over here. And
exactly.
I see. Hi, Ivy. I miss you too. Ivy's someone I used to work with at my muggle job. And she says congrats to Emma for the awards.
Thank you, Ivy.
Yeah. And so you've had these experiences in terms of the awards recently. You've got the third one in about 2 weeks. And so for some of the adult folks that I've talked to, they kind of like know when they're like peaking, and then they want to either get behind. They want to get behind the camera, go into production more. And some are like, no, I'm writing this as far as I can, and then I'll go behind the camera. Kind of where are you on that timeline?
That's me. I feel like I am hitting my stride. I feel like I'm nowhere near my peak. I feel like this is the first time really like it's been 3 years, but just building all of the foundation of like what kind of performer I want to be. But I want to work with Bree Mills for Adult Time for a lot of her bigger projects and her bigger movies, with more acting, also for more Dorcel movies. They have huge sets and something that's just way more elevated than just like simple Gonzo scenes. As much as I love Gonzo, I would really just like to do something that has more acting, but still have the fun part in it.
Well, you know, when you're talking about like working on like more features and things that have big productions and that kind of thing, Bloomer Yang is someone that is also with Erica, your
Mhm.
publicist,
Awesome.
and he writes and directs features exclusively. That's what he does.
Oh, wow.
And he's got his degrees in both film whatever film production
Mhm.
and screenwriting. So yeah, he's totally into the feature world, and I remember that stuff from back in the early
Yeah.
90s for myself. I'm like, yeah, that's why that was there. And then Gonzo came along when
Yeah.
way back when camcorders first became available, and then the internet, of course, blew it completely up.
Yeah.
And so, but no, it's nice when adult companies are going back into doing features and putting some money into production and
Yes.
some actual acting, because some of the performers are really, really good actors.
Yeah.
And
Maitland Ward is one of my. She's an icon to me. She's amazing, and like she's such a good actress that I'm like, I want to be like you so bad.
Well, it's probably going to happen because you're definitely determined, and you keep working and pushing, and like you said, you haven't even hit your prime yet. So it's like, kind of where there's a will, there's a way, and that's at least that's been my model because I started doing this stuff 11 years ago. I never in a million years would have thought I'd be where I am now. But it's like, no,
yeah.
you keep hustling, keep trying to do things the right way. That works for you on a personal level, on a professional level, and then the audience eventually comes to you. That's the way I look at it. So, and correct me if I'm wrong. If we kind of go back, it sounded like when you were transitioning, that was back in college.
Yeah, back in 2017. So I started in the adult industry in 2020. I had my first scene in January. I had like 2 scenes, and then COVID hit. So like no work for 5 months until July. But during that time, I moved to Vegas. But I started transitioning my senior year of college, like smack dab in the middle, right after it was August, not August, it was April 4th, April 3rd, 2017. So I'm coming up on my 6-year mark.
Okay, and I before I was doing any of this kind of stuff.
I found this on the web for our college.
Sorry, say that again one more time.
Before I was doing a lot of this, I was working with models and doing model photography. So I worked with some folks that identified as trans. I actually worked at one of my model jobs, and that was really interesting because one of my coworkers was started transitioning while I was there.
Yeah.
And he was at the time married with 3 children, and it was just interesting. It was interesting how we were trying to be supportive of her.
Yeah.
And she and I like to play guitar together and that kind of thing. And she was like, "What, do you not want to play guitar with me, or how do you want to do this, Mark?" And I'm like, absolutely not. I said, I want to still do what we were talking about. We were going to play at a staff thing, which we did. And we were part of a men's group. So she asked me to kind of help me take it over because she was transitioning. And I'm curious. The only reason I bring all that up is I'm wondering, what was that process like for you, in the middle of your senior year in college? Was it fairly seamless? Was it like a lot of obstacles in your way? How was that process for you?
So it was in Tampa, Florida. Where I'm from is way more rural. It's still Central Florida, but it's way more redneck. Like my family is like redneck. So coming to Tampa was way better. Like so many people were more accepting. All of my teachers, I emailed them all, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go by my real name now. And then luckily at that time, like everybody kind of already knew because I was starting to wear makeup. I was feminine. So it wasn't really much of a big switch, although I wasn't always feminine growing up because my dad was super Southern and like I grew up on a farm. So some people didn't get it, but when they heard my name like by the teacher over and over again, they're like, okay, I'm guessing this is what's going on because I didn't make a big announcement. I just told my teachers that I just started dressing as me. And I was like, okay, well, everyone's gonna get the picture or they're not. So everyone was really, really nice. The only problem was I didn't walk to graduate when I graduated college because they couldn't back then. It was 2017, but they couldn't guarantee that I was gonna walk underneath my name. I wasn't getting a clear answer, and I was like, I'm not gonna walk and have my legal name being called at that time because I have my name changed now. But I was like so terrified, especially in the beginning of the transition. Everything is so terrifying. Like now I'd be like, okay, fuck it, I don't care. But back then as like a baby, I would be like, I guess I'm just not gonna walk, which I really regret that moment.
Well, I appreciate your transparency with that. Because I think you hear, how many times have you heard someone say, well, I don't have any regrets in life? I was like, well, no, I think everybody does.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because what they'll say is like, well, these, the choices I made me who I am today. So, well, yeah, I understand that, but I bet you if you could go back and change even something small, it's like, well, I would change that. I would do
Right,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, I'm like, oh, I'll just like walk when I go get my master's because I was gonna go get my master's, and then how I got into the adult industry was I was a dancer after college because it paid for all my bills and paid for like all of my tuition. And so I was going back and forth between a marketing job, marketing firm, shipping, a marketing firm. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna finally like give up shipping and go to do CRM services in New York. I was looking at apartments, and then that was when either I was going to move to Chelsea or I was going to move to Vegas because I just did my very first scene. And as soon as all of these companies like Evil Angel and Ruby started messaging me, I'm like, I guess this is going to be my new life. So it was really nerve wracking. But I still feel like I use marketing every day.
Yeah, I was going to say that that having that degree background in marketing has got to really help you in terms of branding yourself and where you want to go in the future. Because my understanding is that you kind of mentioned it, that eventually you want to be getting into your own production company and doing things that you want to do, and you'll be the first one to know how to market yourself.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, I think you had mentioned like, your family rednecks and that you were probably like a tomboy back in the day. In those early days. How's your family with your transition now?
Yeah, my dad came around. He's amazing. He's my best friend. I don't talk to my mom. Long story, but so my dad's my best friend. I talked to him about scenes. I talked to him about like what's going on with work, about like what I want to do. And at first he was very hesitant because he's like, I love you, you're my daughter, but like I still want you to think about the future. And then like I told him like my entire plan, like my monthly plan, my year plan, my 5-year plan, my 10-year plan. He's like, okay, you got this.
Well, that's great that your dad is so supportive, and once you showed, look, I've thought about this. Here's what
exactly.
I want to do. It wasn't some whim that I decided, okay, I'm going to go into the adult industry.
Exactly. I was like,
I think that's probably almost every parent's concern, is that you haven't thought something through. when you make a big change. Yeah, it looks he looks knocked out back there.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that you did a couple scenes and then COVID hit. What were your first scenes like, being on a set and just being in front of a camera like that?
Oh my God. So my very first one was with this producer that no one really likes, that I don't even really like anymore. It's a bad guy in the industry. But my big studio was Evil Angel. They didn't release the scene until like a year later. And I was so nervous. Like it was with Dante Cole. I've been watching Dante Cole for years. And when I finally you see like a celebrity pretty much in person, and I'm like shaking because I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to fuck you. So it's like you just meet them, and then like literally 30 minutes later, you're like balls deep. So I was so nervous, but it was really, really exciting.
That's got to be a trip to see.
Yeah, now it's easy. Now I'm like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. Take your clothes off. But before, at the beginning, when I was like a newbie, oh my God, my heart was racing. I was just nervous. I would forget my lines. So it definitely takes a lot of time to build like confidence up.
Yeah, I would think there was another adult folk that I was talking to that was saying that for her early scenes, what really helped her was her co-star made her relax by just kind of being chill and just talking about random things, and like it was no big deal. Instead, like there was no attitude, nothing like that, and being really, really willing to like walk her through the whole process so that she felt good about it. So that's why to her way of thinking, that's why she's still in the industry, because if those scenes had been bad early on, she would have been like, I don't know if this is what I want. Yeah. So that's cool. I'm picturing like if it'll be just like when I meet, music stars, or if you meet an athlete or meet an actor, it's like, oh my God, and now I'm actually working with you.
I know, because sometimes you're always like scared, like don't meet your heroes, like that kind of like saying, like sometimes I was so nervous. There's been some bad experiences, of course, where people I'm like, you are not who I thought you were. And then there's other people that I'm like, you are everything I wish that you were.
That is so awesome when you do meet your hero and it turns out they're just they're freaking awesome.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
now I'm a fan for life, or you're even a friend. In some cases, in your case, I might be like a friend for life.
Yeah, Dominic Presley, I love her so much. She's a mentor of mine, one of my very best friends. And then like I knew that I got to a certain part of like my career when like she started asking me for help, and I'm like, oh my God, like my mentor, like my like icon is asking me for help. It was such an like I just felt so happy in that moment. But yeah, she is definitely the person who's taught me almost everything that I know about porn. She's absolutely amazing.
Well, see, that's so awesome that you had somebody that was, helping you, willing to help you along. Anything that you need, and then became a friend, and then here the tables turned, and now she's wondering about, hey, what do I do here, or how did you get this, or that's awesome when it's reciprocal like that. Oh my gosh. And so when you were doing your early scenes, were you working independently? Did you have an agent? How did you first get started before where you are now? It's probably different, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So this he's this full-time director, and he kept on like hitting me up, and I was like, no, I'm not shooting with you. And like forever. And then literally one night I was just like, you know what? You're gonna regret it if you don't. So I called him up. I was like, okay, I'm down. And he literally booked me for like the next month. And I've never had an agent. I've always been independent my whole entire career. I've gone back and forth with wanting to be with an agency or being with like someone to manage me, but I'm really happy I haven't. But also I wanna everything that I've learned, and I'm like a sponge. Anything someone tells me, I just like really think about it, and I still put it to action, even if I don't think it will work. I'm like, what can go wrong? And then it actually might work. So I really want to like bring that back to the new girls who might not have direction or the like access that I had. Because starting in COVID, there wasn't a lot of like competition, I feel like, and now the new girls, there's a lot of competition. So it's really amazing to see this new wave of like new talent in front of the camera. But at the same time, I still want them to like know who they can talk to, know who they can trust, have like a good support system. Because having a good support system and a good PR girl is very important.
Wise words, and you could really probably even say that for almost any occupation somebody goes into. Have that support system and find out who you can trust. Because when you get to those stumbling blocks, then you can rely on those people to help you get around or over them. Oh my gosh. Well, also I would think that it sounds like you definitely you've got the wherewithal to represent yourself, because some people don't, unfortunately, and then they end up down a path they really didn't want to go down, and then who knows what happens to them. But it's great that
there's a lot of pushy people in the industry.
That's what I'm gathering from the folks I've talked with.
And
it's kind of like if you hear it enough times from different people, that's like, okay, there's probably some truth to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, but that's when you're saying that you've been you're representing yourself. It reminds I'm a sports person, so it reminds me of like all the athletes that they're cutting these big old deals, and you find out they represent themselves. And I don't want an agent there. I can do this on my own.
Exactly, because then it's like you're taking money. It's just there's even more people involved, and then you even having a manager that does not have the same like ideas for you, and like you're pretty much like stuck in a contract. Like you have to do a lot of those things, so you have to read contracts, read everything, and make sure that you have somebody that like matches your energy as well.
Yeah, I think that energy part's really huge. I'm definitely big on energy from people.
Yeah.
Kind of like, yeah, your energy is a little bit off for whatever reason, and I trust that. That means I'm going over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Your energy, okay. We're kind of vibing, so I think this is okay over here. But you, I don't know what your deal is. So for every person that I've had the pleasure of talking to in the adult industry, they always tell me that sometimes they'll work, X amount of scenes a month. Sometimes they know they want to take off a month because they're just ready for a break, and they go out of the country or whatever they're going to do. It's kind of like how some tattoo artists are, where they can work at a shop, got enough money together, bang, they're gone. They're not working for a while, and then they go to another shop. Is that kind of where you're at, where you can just kind of pick and choose when you want to work?
So I keep telling myself, I tell my directors this week, I'm going to work this week, 5 days in a row. And then they're like, and I live in Vegas, so I don't live in LA, and I never shoot in Vegas. But directors are like, hey, like I just had an opening up in 2 days, and I'm like, I'll be there. And I'm like, I just can't say no. I'm a workaholic, but I love it. It's because I love what I do. So I'm like, every time I'm like, no, I need to stay home. I'm just like, my team, like, because I'm a videographer, he films everything that I do. And a lot of times I'm like, okay, so we're not gonna work on Friday, so flying to LA. I'll be back Friday night. So I'll just fly in that morning, fly back out the night.
Wow. Well, again, that speaks to your wherewithal, your work ethic, that you're wanting to work and keep making those connections as well, and you're building your brand.
Yeah.
That's what, and you're also paying your bills.
Yeah. I'm like, I've never seen it on money. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, because I think when I first started doing interviews with anyone in the adult industry, people still have these ideas that they're in a mansion, they've got 5 cars, and then not that they're not doing well, but it's just like that's not what it is, especially with the way with huge sites and the industry changed a lot in the 10, 15 years. So yeah, and they also, like you're a perfect example. You're working hard.
Yeah, it's a hard. The scenes are very long, even though like I'm on all day for like OnlyFans and mini vids and like trying to get my loyal fans started more. It's like there's a lot of things that like you only have so many hours in a day. So I try to do all the chatting as possible, but sometimes I'm like, hey guys, I have to take a break right now because I have so many other things to do. But I've had fans that have been with me for 2-3 years that I adore, and I'm like, they keep me sane as much as I am working. They still keep me sane. It doesn't feel like work. So I want to have a shout out to all of my fans that have been so amazing to me.
Well, there we go again. I mean, there's another example of that. Part of that support system is your fan base, and that they're understanding and also pick me up and maybe give you a good laugh and have gotten to know you pretty well and that type of thing. And that's a huge change from even like I'm 52, so I'm an old fart. If someone had told me that, I don't know if there was a guitarist in a band that I could just go online, which was completely foreign back then, and interact with that person on a monthly basis or weekly basis, and be like, what are you talking about? And then how do I sign up for this? And now, if it's through through OnlyFans or if it's through any other platform, Patreon, that kind of thing, you can have all this access to the person that you're a fan of. And it's mutual, because then you're paying whatever you're paying per month, and so then it helps you out with your career, and then it's usually a win-win most of the time. And so, is there anything from I guess for the future with your fans that you want to kind of start to develop more? Like you said, you're really busy, but is there anything else? Especially being a marketing person.
Honestly, right now I wanna since I have like a subscription based asset, I have like my new house, so I have that one. I want to build a product. It's like my biggest thing that I want to do, not necessarily for my fans, because I haven't thought really that far for like my fans, except for like merchandise. But I want to start making more things for trans girls, like gaps and stuff, which is like specific for tucking. Because a lot of them just fall short, and I feel like with my name pushing it, where like, a lot of people can benefit from it. So I feel like having, I don't know, I always have like property, subscription, and then a product. So I feel like that'd be nice.
Okay, no, that makes perfect sense, and like you said, that's something that's needed. And for folks that,
project.
And for folks that are watching this, that maybe are like completely like lost.
What is this?
What we're talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I heard or read somewhere that you had, I forget the technical term for the surgery, but your testicles were removed. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's called an orchiectomy or a castration. Yeah. So it's much easier for me to tuck than a lot of other girls, and plus I'm small, so like if a girl's hung and she's like has big balls, tucking is very hard. So trying to find other solutions to hide everything when you're in a bikini or something tight is like crucial. Otherwise, you have to do something that's very like makeshift and like hurts very much. So having something that's comfortable is really important.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. There was so some people who are watching this right now maybe don't know, but if you go back onto my blog, I've done maybe 4 written interviews with folks in the adult industry, and one was identified as trans,
Mhm.
and she was trying to explain to me because she was very large. It's like I was like, I know you can tuck, but like, where do you tuck that?
Right, exactly.
And she talked about it's painful at times, and you're kind of self-conscious of it because it's depending on what you're wearing. Like,
Right.
I hope it stays where it's supposed to stay.
Mhm.
All this kind of thing. But yeah, if you have a line of products that are going to come out with your name on it,
Yeah.
then it's going to be like, oh, okay, cool. I want that. Just like it's no different than musicians and athletes. You brand yourself, and sometimes you get more money from that.
Yeah, exactly, for sure.
Yeah, if it catches on, goodness. And so we'll talk about some other terms too for other people. When you started out in the industry, were you almost exclusively a bottom, or were you also doing some topping as well when you first started?
So when I started, I was a bottom, and only boy-girl scenes. So that was up for pretty much my first year. At the end, I think around like my 9-month mark, I started topping, and then coming into my second year, halfway through, is when I started shooting with women. And my very first girl scene was with Angela White. I was like, for Brazzers, and I was like, okay, this is a great start to a girl career. And then I was topping and bottoming. Now, like in 2022, pretty much all of my scenes was girl. Like 3 of my best scenes that got nominated, like best scene for Expos, they were all lesbian scenes. My best scene for Avian was that I won was a girl scene as well. It was a threesome. So everything has been I've been almost exclusively a lesbian performer this last year, but now I'm bringing back boys. I'm like, okay, I need to like diversify everything again. So I do a lot of bottoming and topping everything now.
Okay. And again, for folks that don't know what we're talking about, you can just kind of picture, like literally, if you're on the bottom or if you're on the top, what happens. So hopefully you can kind of put 2 and 2 together in your head, and if not, you can message me later and I'll explain it to you. So since you're going back to doing scenes with boys, I'm trying to remember. Have you done anything that's even close to a gangbang? With
No,
either sex?
I haven't. So I've had off my OnlyFans, but not for studio. So I'm hoping this year either I'll do either a DP or a gangbang. I'm not sure which one, but one or the other. So I haven't done either. It's probably one of my first, and then a blow bang as well.
Okay, all right. And do you feel that, is it true that it's better to kind of like slowly do things in the industry, and then you kind of almost like you're teasing before you actually do, like say a bang or a blow bang or something? Don't just do
for
it
sure.
Don't do it
Yeah, don't
immediately.
do it all. Like, don't do like just keep throwing all your first. And if you do want to do all your first at one time, just do a showcase and make a shit ton of money. Because I feel like a lot of times, like especially new girls, like they don't know how much they can ask companies to get paid for. I'm like, no, like if you can make more on your OnlyFans, do not settle for a little bit of money from a studio, because like why would you do that when you can just do it on your OnlyFans? So right now, I still haven't had an offer that I wanted to for a gangbang, but I already know that it would make the studio a lot of money. The longevity is key for anything. Like you can, if you want to have a short career, then fine. But if you want to have a long career, take your time. Like Angela White, I feel like she didn't do boy-girl scenes until like 8 years into her career.
Yeah, see, and there's a good example. It's just like starting off.
8 years is a long time.
That is, it's almost like dog years in
the
adult world. But you're right that if you're taking your time, because if you want to have a longer career, don't give away the entire enchilada. You know, give a piece of it, and then another piece, and be methodical about it, and then you'll reap that payday from it. So that's also coming from some of the other guests that I've talked to, so that they made the mistake that they jumped in, didn't know any better. So now all the new girls, they tell them, don't do what I did.
Yeah, exactly.
Slowly build up to, whatever thing you think is like the big money maker for you. So what, and we'll kind of shift gears a bit into the future when you're talking about having your own production company and things that you want to do within pornography, and maybe having more, production values and things for trans folks. What do you think is going to make your company stand out? What's going to make it unique?
I really just want to make it for like the girls to also like some of the scenes that people do, like at the studios, they still just like really like that wow factor of like, oh, I didn't know she was trans, or just like the same thing that they did like 15 years ago. This is why I really do love adult time. But I really just want to start breaking boundaries and getting a lot of performers that are nervous or that haven't shot with trans girls before, and just having a lot of firsts, and a lot of good chemistry. Because I love the chemistry important. Because if a girl doesn't have chemistry with their partner, it doesn't look as good.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right with that. And anyone who's seen a really hot scene in pornography knows when there's chemistry with the performers, whoa, that scene goes right through the roof. And when they're not, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And plus, I feel like there's so many things that are like that are shot in the straight world, the cis world, like I love Ricky's Room, or not Black Raw as in like the content, but the way it's shot was very dark and with that bright light. Never ever seen any trans porn like this before. And I feel like having a lot of those like those concepts of porn and bringing them into the trans side would just be really hot and showing a new way of shooting trans porn that's just overlooked by a lot of our directors.
Okay, that
also,
makes
please
sense.
don't steal my idea, anybody.
So anyone that's watching this, forget what we just said. But now I do understand, because if you're talking about like, well, I won't say it again, so we don't give away.
Yeah, exactly.
but that certain company whose material I am familiar with, that makes sense. That if you could take that into the trans porn world in terms of how to shoot it, so yeah, why don't we take some of these great ideas here that are really innovative and put them over here?
Exactly.
It hasn't been seen before.
It hasn't been done before. Yeah, would be really hot.
And something that I just kind of just came into my head is that there's been so many things. I mean, where adult is now, I mean, yes, there's still a stigma, but it's not the stigma that it was in the 80s or even the 90s.
Yeah, exactly.
And you started having performers in music videos for bands, and maybe even showing up in a mainstream film and that kind of thing. I'm kind of wondering if there would ever be somebody, I bet you there is, that would be, say, maybe in a non-sex scene, but in a feature that you're doing for your company, in an acting role, or something like that, or maybe the band's playing in the background or something.
Yeah.
You don't see that kind of thing, because it's always like, well, that's taboo, it's pornography, we don't want
exactly.
But I'm sure there's especially with bands, there's too many of them that know porn performers, and some are even married to them and that kind of thing. That why don't they get in there, even if it's just in that that way of not being a performer? I think you start seeing some really interesting things that you don't see.
Yeah.
So there, you can take my idea if you want. and steal it. Wow. And are you liking being in Vegas, or are you planning to stay there?
Yeah, I moved to LA for 2 months, and I was like, I just can't. I hate LA with a passion. I was like, oh, like you didn't enjoy it, you didn't like do the right things, and I was like, no, it's just so much traffic. And the thing that I hate most about leaving my house is traffic. Like I can't drive an hour to go meet a friend every single day because they're my neighbor. Like here, like I don't mind driving it like an hour, because that means they're on the other side of town. You go to the next neighborhood and LA, it's gonna take an hour.
That makes sense.
And plus, I'm from Florida, so Tampa has really bad like traffic as well. Like, because it's right next to the water. It's kind of the same in LA in that aspect, but that's why I moved from there too. Not even just for my career. I just couldn't do it anymore.
Okay. Well, and my understanding too is that the move to Vegas, or staying in Vegas, is going to help you out financially as well.
Oh yeah, there's no income tax, which is nice.
Yeah. There's a ton of musicians and actors moving to Vegas from LA because they're like, I'm out of here. You're
LA is just so much. It's a lot.
What do you do when you're, besides traveling? What's your self-care? What do you like to do? What are the interests?
I love being outside. So I like hiking. I love kayaking. I just started rock climbing recently, like inside, but it's a lot of upper body that I'm just like, oh, I'm not ready for this at all. But anything outdoors or by the water, sadly, there's not much water here in Vegas. But every time I go back to Florida and I visit family, I always go like jet skiing and all that too.
Okay. No, that's all that stuff sounds great except for the rock climbing part. That I have a fear of heights, so
Oh my god, really? I just
yeah.
went on a hot air balloon in Australia, and that was the first time that I was scared of being high because we were like almost 4,000 feet, not 4,000 feet, 4,000 miles. Wasn't it 4,000 miles? No. Mm, it was a kilometer. I don't know how much that is, but in the air and looking down, like you're way up there, you're in the clouds, and it was like shaking like this, and I'm like, I don't have a parachute on. If I fall, I die. Oh my god. Yeah, it was a lot.
See, that makes my palms sweaty just hearing about it. I kid you, I know. Yeah, that's not for me. But that's great that you're enjoying rock climbing. And that's true. I think seeing a hot air balloon looks really picturesque. I don't know if I want to
It's
be in
very
it.
pretty, but yeah, it's very loud too because you just hear like so much fires going in the balloon. And then landing was kind of scary because like he did like a sliding land. So instead of just going like down nice and easy, he's like bam, bam, bam. And like we're like holding on, and I'm like, I'm gonna fucking die.
Oh my god. That would be horrible to read, you know, that Emma Rose died by
And hot air balloon.
Like, what? Did she fall off? No, it's when they landed, it tipped over and it kept rolling. Oh gosh. Does that mean you also do you ever want to go skydiving and that kind of adrenaline stuff?
I would
as
love
well?
to. Yeah, I want to go skydiving. I feel like I'm gonna be so terrified, but I just want to do it.
Okay, well, if my good friend from high school, Mike, is watching, he owns his own company in Georgia.
Wow.
He's done maybe 6,000 jumps.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what they do. They take people up and down all day long to go jump. And he's like, Mark, anytime you want to do it. And I'm like, do you know who you're talking to? I'll come visit you, but on the ground.
Like I'll see you when you land.
Yeah, we'll go have a drink or whatever. We're not gonna go up there, no. What else are there things like on your bucket list that you want to do before the show's over?
Just a lot of travel, honestly. I feel like I've done so many things already in my life, but definitely just travel. I want to travel the world.
Okay. Well, and yeah, I mean, you're in the right industry because, like we talked earlier, you can work hard when you want to, and then okay, I'm taking 2 weeks
and then work anywhere. I worked on my trip when I went to Australia because I'm a workaholic. I was like, I might as well shoot with some people out here. So.
But and I can see that. You're in a new place and you get a chance to do that, and it's not like you did that the entire vacation. It's just like, well,
yeah, I wasn't like working every day for sure.
Yeah, okay. Because there's another a gal that has been on 3 times, and she went to Europe, and I forgot she'd been raised in Europe. So I said, oh yeah, Mark, when I went over there, I did some scenes and caught up with people and stuff. So I did both. There was a balance, and then I don't know when I'll be back, so that's why I want to do work. And I'm like, okay, I'm not picking at it. That makes sense to me. So speaking of all the workaholic stuff, so do you have scenes coming up then that are either going to be 1 coming out or 2 that you're getting ready to go shoot and do, or both?
Yeah, there's a lot that I'm gonna do at the end of the month, and then I'm sending my schedule out because now when I send my schedule out, everyone's like, okay, I want this day, this day, this day. But traveling back and forth between LA now more. I was gonna stay, but I was gonna stay in Vegas more, but I changed my mind. I'm just gonna go back and forth all the time.
Okay, well, yeah, you're gonna be busy, and like you said, just building and building your brand. And as we still have a few minutes here before we kind of wrap things up, every performer's told me different things about what they prefer to have on set when they shoot a scene, like what that environment works best for them. Are you to that point where you're like, if I could have these things, it just makes it go so much smoother? What kind of things are you looking for when you show up on a set?
Honestly, I'm not really picky on set. I've worked in some bad situations where they did not have a shower and I was covered in oil, and I was just like, well, it's the game, so I'm gonna go find somewhere to shower and then I have to catch a flight. So I feel like as long as they have a shower, now I'm like, I ask beforehand, and then just at least someone that I'm enjoying shooting with. Honestly, if it could be the nicest set, and if I don't have chemistry with a person, it's not going to be a good scene. But if it's like someone that I have good chemistry with, it's going to be bomb.
Well, and do you have a no list?
I do have a no list. I do. It's very, very short though, honestly. It's just short. It's just because of how they've treated other performers. It's nothing that's like a personal vendetta or anything. And then of course I have my yes list, and I'm like, I want this person all the time.
Well, that's great that you have like a bigger yes list than
Sure, yeah.
The no list is small. And again, for people that are watching this who claim to not know what we're talking about, after a while, performers typically will have a no list. Like if that person is being their partner for that scene, they'll say no, that's not someone they'll shoot with, for a variety of reasons. And again, it may not be a personal reason; it could just be other things that happen. So it's no, get me somebody else. So that's what we're talking about. So a yes list is a good thing if you're on a yes list for a performer. What kind of advice, you kind of touched on this earlier, what kind of advice would you give someone who's new coming into the industry?
Honestly, I feel like above all, having a good PR person, Erica, has changed my life. I don't think that I would have ever gotten this far in the industry without her. And I think I'll take hold for that, because I was like, how do you have like all of these like good like publicity and everything? He's like, Erica, give her like, tell her I sent you. And like she just really goes above and beyond to just put your name at the very front. It's like skipping the line a lot of the times is how I would like compare it. And so directors see you, other companies see you, because a lot of times like there's so many girls that they don't know who's who until they see it like on XBiz, or they see it through like a press release. And so that's really, really important. I feel like that's the number one thing that you should do.
Okay, really, really good advice. And yeah, I mean, even on the other side for me, she's been tremendous as somebody that we work well together. And when she's getting really good feedback from her clients, she's like, Mark, anytime you want somebody, and then sometimes she'll just shoot me some people. Like, hey, check out these people. And if you have time to have them on your show, I'm like, no, I'll definitely look into anything. In your case, I knew who you were, so I asked, is she doing interviews? And I'm so glad that you took the time to be able to do that. So it's been great to catch up with, or not catch up, but get to know you better. And like I mentioned during my other interviews, I love having guests come back. If it's 6 months from now, we kind of say, hey, so remember from March to wherever it's summertime at that point or something. Where are you now? And maybe went on a couple other trips. If some other kind of thing happened in your life that you're like, I want to talk about this. It's been great. And I've only had one guest who's done 3, and then one who's done 2. That's it. So you would be up here in that echelon. And anybody, if you're watching this right now, if you want to ask Emma a question, get it into the chat quickly before we kind of call it a night and everything, so she can carry on with her night, whatever she has planned.
I snuggle up my kitty.
Have you seen anything in porn, just not for yourself, but like I don't know why they're doing that, or I didn't like that scene, or I didn't like how they did this. Why didn't they do it this way? Because it sounds like you've been around enough to kind of know like what looks good and what doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And what are some examples you can think of?
I feel like sometimes some directors just shoot, because they're, as much as I do love them, they're old. So they shoot a lot of the times like still like the way that they shot like in the 2000s or like the early 2010s. It's just very like, either sometimes it's very cock-centric, or like for trans girls, or just they're just not flattering angles. They make you look, sometimes I feel like there's been scenes where I look like a man. I'm just like, I'm topping. If you're topping, you have to get the most feminine, beautiful angles. Otherwise, we don't look good. And that's, I feel like a lot of times that I've brought it up to directors, and they're like, okay, I think I understand what you're talking about. Like shooting, you still get penetration. It's just a little bit more classy looking. I feel like that's just my biggest complaint. Just having those angles. Because when you shoot something by yourself, it's easy. Like, your angles, and so you're shooting it from the camera, but the camera's always moving around, and like the porn set. So You have to kind of direct the director sometimes when you know. I'm like, I know this is gonna look good. Trust me on this. And then usually like, okay, let me try it.
As a photographer, I know exactly what you're talking about with angles. Even like, I'll give you a good example that the theater opening that I was at last night, and someone's just taking a selfie, but my plus one was like, Mark, why is she like literally down like on the floor, like crouched down, trying to shoot up like this? And I'm
Right.
like, I don't know, but it's gonna look terrible. I can guarantee you. And yeah, she's trying to get a picture of her friend with the backdrop and everything. And I'm like, I almost wanted to say something, but it's not my place.
I know, right?
Do what you're gonna do. But in your case, if you're working, it's like, hey, this.
Yeah, I need to look good because your face is your brand a lot of times in this industry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you have some, especially if you have like a set of scenes that come out from different companies and they all have really crappy angles on it, or
yeah, exactly.
Then they're like, what happened to Emma's scenes? They were going like this, and now they're kind of like, eh.
Right.
So it actually had nothing to do with her. It's that director, or sometimes even the editor doesn't know what they're doing, and you're like, we had a great scene, and you fucked it up. That's not good. But Emma, thank you so much for taking the time tonight. I so appreciate you. I hope that you feel 100% soon.
Yeah, hopefully soon. I'm getting better slowly.
Yeah, and there's nice meeting Mr. Kitty and
the buddy boy, you want to say hi?
Hey, buddy.
Oh my goodness. Bye.
Everybody that's watching right now, because I see we have numbers up. Thank you for watching. If you're too shy to be in the chat, that's okay. And Emma, I truly meant that. If you'd like to come back down the road, I can reach out to Erica and we kind of see if we find another time when some time has passed and kind of see where things are at.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a good night down there.
Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.